Hi, this is Steve Hutchinson with Hutchinson Family Offices, and this is our December 21 video. And we're so excited. We're coming to the conclusion of, I want to say, a pretty eventful year. We've had a lot of things that's gone on this year, but we've been really matter of fact in each of our videos, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the facts and kind of let you know exactly where we stand on a lot of these issues that are going to crop up. And we believe next year it's going to be quite significant. So I would say hold on to your hats. Let's first take a look at inflation. Now, we have said for quite a while that inflation wasn't transitory, and now the Federal Reserve has officially said it's not transitory. We knew it wasn't transitory because it was basically affecting core costs, core expenses, things that were produced internally in the United States were as a result going much, much higher. So we have a core inflation problem. Numbers out just recently were the highest since I think the year I heard was about 1978. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember much about 1978. I was in the Marine Corps at the time, and I was paying 27 cents a gallon for gasoline at the PX. But I do remember the cost of gas going up, and I do remember the high inflation that we had in the Carter years just prior to the Reagan presidency. Go one step further, though. This inflation, remember, we always talk about the Fed, because the Fed, for the most part, financial markets, and this is not an opinion, this is based upon historical fact, financial markets don't always correct because of valuation. In other words, the S&P doesn't drop 10 or 15% because it's got ahead of itself or it was a little overvalued. Typically, it's some type of outside influence, and most of the time it's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has a big influence on the market. Remember the old saying, don't fight the Fed. So now we have the Federal Reserve has decided now to, as we said, eliminate tapering. Now, tapering is buying of U.S. Treasuries, government securities on a monthly basis, which is artificially suppressing interest rates. They will quit buying these Treasuries, and as a result, interest rates should start moving higher. Now, that doesn't mean the interest rate that you pay for an automobile loan or anything would necessarily move. This is interest rates on bonds or fixed income vehicles. So I think it's important to remember that this tapering is just step one. Again, I want to take you all the way back to 2007, 2008, where we had a financial collapse as a result of loose policy on regulating the banks and how they loan money and make mortgages and different things that they do, creating artificial stimulus, if you will. The Fed balance sheet at that time stood at about $1 trillion. Today, it's over $8 trillion. Largely grown in the last few years under the, not the current Federal Reserve chairman, but the previous one, which is Secretary Yellen, who is the head of the U.S. Treasury now. Yellen was responsible for a tremendous amount of growth in the balance sheet when she took over from Bernanke. So I've followed this, and quite frankly, that's the next, I hate to say it, that's the next shoe that's got to drop. Once the Fed quits buying treasuries, which it's announced that it's going to quit doing that, they got to start selling off their inventory, or as their inventory continues to mature, they're going to put themselves in a position where they're not going to buy more treasuries. So maybe there'll be a gradual shrinking of the federal balance sheet. The Federal Reserve has, as I've said, two primary responsibilities. The first one is employment, and the second one is inflation. Well, clearly, the Fed has not been effective at controlling inflation. They've got to get interest rates up a little higher on the market value. So they've announced that in 2022, they are going to have 3 rate increases. I don't doubt that they won't have 3 rate increases. I will go one step further, and I believe they'll have 4. And the reason being I believe they'll have 4 is because they've got to do something about the employment situation. We're seeing the employment numbers slowing. And as a result, the most recent employment numbers were surprisingly low. And now we're moving into post-holiday which is kind of a doldrum in the employment market. So we're going to see how they do. Remember, their two primary focuses are inflation and employment, and neither one of those numbers look good now. The Fed doesn't really have any ammunition. How are they going to deal with this? So it's going to be interesting to watch. They said 3 rate increases next year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think they'll increase it at least 4 times. And I think 4 is a good number. And it wouldn't surprise me we don't see a late year, not this year, but next year, a late year cut where maybe it'd be kind of interesting to see how the financial markets react. But when the Fed announced that they were going to increase rates 3 times and they said they were going to quit tapering, what did the markets do the next day? They responded positively. They responded positively on the comments. And the reason the financial markets respond positively is because there's always a lot of comfort and certainty. You know, it makes you feel comfortable if you're a financial manager knowing where the Fed's going to go. So we're comfortable with what the Fed is doing, but it dampens our outlook for the financial markets. So when we talk about our outlook for the financial markets, we see the financial markets softening. We've had a really nice run this year. I looked over some of the companies that we've had for a year or more. Some of them have done extremely well. I would expect that some of those returns will soften in the financial markets. Our portfolio team is doing a lot to enhance returns right now through options and structured notes and other strategies that we have the ability to deploy. But there again, the only reason Amazon goes up in value, at least as far as the stock market is concerned, is because more people want to buy the stock. They think the money they got in their pocket is worth buying the stock at this point. Unfortunately, Amazon's not one of those companies we had a great year with, but that's a good analogy. So when we take a look at what's on the horizon for next year, we're going to have a very special video next year. Starting in January, we're going to talk a little bit more specifically. I think that once we get past the Christmas holidays, which are just around the corner for us, I think the financial markets are going to deal with a little bit more certainty. Right now, the thing I really don't know that if it's having an effect on the market, but the one thing that Congress is doing is, particularly in the Senate, they're debating this Build Back America bill or Build Back Better bill. BBB or whatever it's called. This is a tremendous amount of government spending, and we've already seen the first bill that went through early in this year has already significantly added to inflation, because when the government puts money into the system, money that is not earned, I mean just pushes money into the system and gets it out in front of people, those people buy those goods and services, and as a result, the goods and services for demand goes up and the prices go up along with them. So we've seen a lot of inflation there. And the school of thought is that this last bill that they're debating right now with all types of spending programs built into it is going to be very inflationary. So I don't really know if it's going to pass. In many ways, I hope it doesn't. I hope that Congress has spent enough money for right now. I would take the tack that some of congressmen have said, look, let's see how we can absorb this. Let's see where we are right now. We've got a lot of things going on in the economy. COVID is still out there. COVID is a serious flu virus. It needs to be taken seriously and has tremendous impact on the economy because the way the government responds with policies that would slow down the economy. So our outlook for next year, a lot of that ties to how we get through the holidays, whether or not they push this Build Back Better America bill that President Biden wants to push through, whether that goes through or not. I think if that goes through, that may dull the markets next year. And then, of course, we have to see how how the states react to COVID and how they deal with the risks that are associated with businesses and things of that nature. So as we close out 2021, it's been a fabulous year. We've really enjoyed working with all of you, and we've had a reasonably good year, and I'm hoping that next year will be better. I believe, though, it will be not as good. I think it'll be a little flat in the financial markets, and I think a lot of uncertainty handles the Fed. But again, If you have concerns about your financial position, your portfolio, or how things are being managed in your financial situation, give us a call, sit down, and we'll be glad to go through it with you. Again, this is our December video. Have a Merry Christmas. Enjoy your time with your family and friends and celebrate the holiday. And let's look forward to a new and prosperous 2022. Thank you.